guests who are joining me this evening, and I'm going to start by thanking all of them for being here with us on the show. Alex Mitchell is one of the litigants in the case. In the UK, there are 51 litigants in all who have taken AstraZeneca to court. Alex Mitchell, thank you very much for your time here. Dr. Aseem Malhotra is a British Indian cardiologist. He's someone who's lost his father during the COVID period. He says it is because of the vaccine. I'm going to ask him why. And NN Khanna is a senior cardiologist and advisor to the Apollo Group of Hospitals. He's joining us on the broadcast as well. Alex Mitchell, I'm going to start with you first. We've now heard a term called TTS. TTS is something that you had to deal with personally. Could you tell us what had happened to you, how you made the link between your condition and the COVID vaccine, and what today means for you, what AstraZeneca's admission means to you and your lawsuit?
I received my AstraZeneca on the 20th of March, 2021. I was told verbally I would have cold flu-like symptoms or a sore side arm. And on the 1st of April 2021, I experienced muscle issues at my job. I struggled on for a couple of days, and then I collapsed at home. I was rushed to hospital and spent 7.5 hours having simultaneous clots removed from both legs and my lower abdomen. The result of which I'm now an amputee above the knee. As I left hospital, it was mentioned on my notes that this was thrombotic thrombocytopenia, thrombosis thrombocytopenia. Within 2 weeks, that was classified as a condition called vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocytopenia. It's much the same thing. The difference is that TTS doesn't affect the platelets, PF4 factor, the way that AstraZeneca does. I now have brain damage. I now have other issues. I have obviously been amputated twice now from above the knee.
Okay, so amputation is what you had to go through because of TTS. I understand that, which is why you dragged AstraZeneca to court. Dr. Aseem Malhotra, should we be surprised at AstraZeneca's admission in court? Yes, it's rare for a pharma company to come to court and admit. In fact, it's not even an admission. Actually, if you look at it, it's a U-turn. First, they said, no, you cannot link our vaccine to TTS. Now they are saying, in rare cases, you can do it. But then, TTS can happen if you have been vaccinated. TTS can also happen if you have not taken our vaccine. I want to ask you, Dr. Aseem Malhotra, whether we know the full truth.
It's a great question. We don't know the full truth, but there's a lot of evidence that points in a certain direction. And that direction looks very, very bleak, unfortunately. So if you look at the yellow card reports in the UK, for example, so these are people who are reporting symptoms of side effects that are beyond mild, likely side effects of the vaccine. After 9.7 million doses in the UK, there were 800,000 such reports. This is unprecedented. And actually, by the summer of 2021, most European countries had suspended the AstraZeneca vaccine because of these issues of blood clots.
Correct.
Now, a more reliable figure, actually, I can explain to you now, is probably much, much higher in terms of serious adverse events. So by the summer of 2021, a comparison was made between Pfizer's vaccine, mRNA vaccine, and the AstraZeneca or the Covishield vaccine. And by that time, they had, in published research, they had concluded that when it comes to very serious cardiovascular effects, heart attacks, strokes, blood clots, that the AstraZeneca vaccine had higher frequency than Pfizer. Now, the more rigorous analysis has been done and published on Pfizer's vaccine because that has had a much more distribution worldwide. And when one looks at that independently, the serious adverse event rate for Pfizer alone, and a lot of it being driven by blood clots, was 1 in 800. And in fact, one analysis independent of industry suggested that you were more likely to suffer serious harm from the Pfizer vaccine than you were to be hospitalized with COVID. Now, I think it's very likely that we will likely ultimately get very similar figures for the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is extremely disturbing. And I have been managing patients myself who've suffered from AstraZeneca, who've had heart attacks several months after having the vaccine, because one of the mechanisms is it likely accelerates heart disease. And in fact, in the last year, I was invited to give talks in AIMS in India, and also KDH Mumbai. I was invited by the Ambanis to give talks to doctors. And when I presented the data, there was not a single rebuttal. They understood what had happened. And unfortunately, this may ultimately go down as one of the biggest scandals in the history of medicine. And I just want to say one more thing before we carry on. I really am concerned that Adar Poonawalla, who is the CEO of the Serum Institute of India, has been very vocal on saying this was safe, even when it was being pulled in European countries. He gave a statement which has now been proven to be false, that he said it was 94% efficacious when it was less than 1%. And he's going after people who are calling out this vaccine by trying for defamation cases. He needs to be answerable on this as well. He needs to be held fully accountable for the statements he's made.
But Dr. Malhotra, fact also is that the WHO told us that yes, there was some risk involved, there were some cases of blood clotting, etc., but the benefits far outweighed the risks. And at a time like that, I'm playing the devil's advocate here, Dr. Malhotra.
I'll answer
during the time of COVID, during the time of COVID, we were all hoping for a miracle. And the vaccines, and the miracle was that these vaccines got produced, first made and then produced so quickly. Now,
So
there were even then eyebrows raised about the rollout, but did we have a choice? It was the best we had. We knew it wouldn't be perfect. We knew the first vaccine would not be perfect, but...
Yeah, very good points to raise. Three, very quickly, I won't go on too long. One, 70% of the Indian population had natural immunity by the time the vaccine was rolled out. We now know, and we should have known even then, I mean, this is basics of medicine, natural immunity is very, very protective. And actually, interestingly, certainly with Pfizer, if you had natural immunity, you already had COVID, and you had the vaccine, you were 3 times more likely to have side effects. Maybe very similar with AstraZeneca. WHO, I'm very sorry, I've had a lot of respect for the WHO for many, many years, but not anymore. They are not a credible organization because they are under commercial influence. Their former Director General, Margaret Chan, said 70% of the funding of the WHO comes with strings attached. Who is one of the biggest funders of WHO? Bill Gates. Why is that a problem? He's heavily invested and made $500 million from COVID vaccines. They are not an independent organization. I'm sorry, and I've said this, even the Times of India quoted me on this. Until they remove commercial influence, the World Health Organization should not be trusted.